All right. Beautiful. Ah, my name is Jonathan. For any of you guys who don't know me, host the Chicago Quality Investors and founder of Chicago Quality Builders, Chicago general contractor. I always start every one of our meetups with gratitude and praise for everyone who couldn't make it and who's online or listen to this later. Most importantly, our host here, Emran Khan and ARC Attorneys, and also All Tech National Title. So if you're in need of an attorney or title company, Emran is the person to talk to. If you guys need to get a hold of him, I can put you in contact with him. Amazing guy and amazing business. They've never let me down on any of my closings, so highly recommend them. Also, always thank everyone for showing up today. It's raining Saturday morning. Definitely says something about everyone who showed up. You guys are different than everyone else who's still in bed sleeping. So just remind yourselves that. So thank you guys for showing up in the morning. Our goal here at the Chicago Quality Investors is just to always help anyone along their journey in the real estate space and figure out what their most important next step is. We all are in different spots, and the more we can rely and learn from other people who have more experience than us, I found that to be a much easier way to learn than trying to figure out on my own, which I've failed miserably at many times. And so I really try and focus on finding people who are really good at what they do. I always am all about the giving as well. So I'm a board member at the Boys and Girls Club True Value. If you guys are willing and able, there's QR codes to scan and make a donation. Suggested donation is $10 if you can make it happen. Would greatly appreciate it. I always like to ask a question at the beginning of our meetup to see if anyone knows what their most important next step is in the real estate journey. Anyone have anything they're working on that they need help with, that they are ready to take action on? Right there in the front, in the white shirt. Tell us.
I'm looking to get some gap lending for some place of flips. So for money or a line of credit or figure out where to get money for to close on some loans.
All right, so you're looking for money. So he needs a private money lender. Whoever's got the deepest pockets in here, you can make your pockets a little deeper working with Julio. I always give a book away. I got this book right here, Subtle Art of Not Giving a Blank. And yeah, really good book. I love it. And, I think it's one of the most important skills we can have is to not worry about what everyone else is thinking. So my friend, book for you. You can come back and let us know some of the highlights about it. But yeah, it's a really great book. And then, I just always remind everyone the three most important steps are educating, coming out here, jumping online or some forums, asking questions. Probably the most underutilized skill, asking questions, being able to ask for help. I know for a long time I wasn't very good at it. Now I probably ask for help more than I need to. Networking as well. And then lastly, taking action and being decisive. So I think it's super easy in the real estate space to analyze a bunch of deals and not take any action. And so, the easiest way to get started is getting ahead, and getting ahead is the way to kind of take your steps in the right journey. I'm super excited. I don't know David, but he's absolutely crushing it in the short-term rental space. The bio I had up on the meetup and everything didn't give this guy justice. So I did a little bit more research. He's been a Airbnb host for 12 years. He has 19 units and counting daily, according to Sean.
Oh, you missed a lot of them.
There's more.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Wow.
You have to split it into different profiles.
Okay, so 19 plus all of the extras. His host rating is 4.86 stars out of 5,
8.7 now.
8.7
That was this morning.
now. He's a super host. And who can guess how many reviews this man has on Airbnb? Okay, well, he has that's a lot. So 2,568, and it's probably more than that at this point. So yeah, I'm a short-term rental owner myself, and I've got nothing anywhere close to those numbers. So I think it's a super key reminder is like, the niches are in the riches. So once you can systematize your business in a way that, you can repeat over and over again, I feel like that's the easiest way to get super successful at something.
Mhm.
And this man has clearly done that in the space. And that's why I'm super happy to have him here because, Airbnb and short-term rental, sexy, but not very easy, in my opinion,
No,
to get started in.
no.
And so, yeah, I kind of wanted to start right there, David. Airbnb short-term rentals. Can you just like talk to us about how that started for you 12 years ago?
Yep.
Why Airbnb? Why short-term rentals? Why not long-term? Why not something else?
So here's what's crazy. 2,568 positive reviews equates to hosting about 7,500 people over my arc, which is a lot of folks. That's like a town. I've only had 4 really bad reviews. The text chain that I threatened to chop somebody up who was annoying me, and a few other missteps along the way. It's been good. I started the Airbnb journey so early. People didn't even understand what Airbnb was. Like it was this weird concept. People were still saying, "Oh, you're going to have murderers come into your house and kill you." Whatever. I started renting out in my flat in Wrigleyville what used to be a walk-in closet. No joke. It was a 5-foot 3-inch by 7-foot 2-inch room. It had a large window in it for $43 a night on average. And it started like kind of taking off. It was crazy. We had huge success with that one little closet room. And I'm like, well, something's going on here. I'll do another closet room. That'll work. And I ended up, my first foray into it all was just this crazy 9,000 square foot confection of shared spaces, where everybody was like having a good time and people were hooking up with each other, and it was really fun. And it actually was incredibly profitable. That was before there was any regulation in Chicago for Airbnb at all. And that was also when people approached Airbnb more like a hostel experience and not like I should be at the Marriott, but I'm staying with you experience. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, so was there something that drew you to it, or you just saw it was something new and jumped in? Like, were you already interested in real estate, or what brought you to Airbnb in general?
I had somebody tell me about it, and I thought that sounds cool. Let's try that. And it worked out. And the weird thing was I wanted to have a giant house simply so I could have big parties. But to have the big party house, you needed to figure out a way to, offset the cost of it. So having all of these weird Airbnb rooms was the perfect way to do that. And I think the first 4 years that I did it, which was pre-pandemic, consistently we were the top hosts in Wrigleyville and top hosts in Chicago. A couple of those years we would always outperform the market, and I made a lot of money, which was nice.
And just like a little other background, before you're doing Airbnb, did you have a job that kind of segued into making that easier for you?
Yeah, I've always been an interior designer for years. So that just like hand in hand went together with Airbnb. And I brought you guys out there, won't be able to see it, but there's some visual aids. One can go that way, one can go that way. The picture on the front is actually the first Airbnb room. Oh, sorry.
And then, okay, yeah. So I think that's one of the most important things I'm always reminding people too, is like, how do you leverage what you already know and do and love into real estate? You know,
Yeah.
it's like there's so many different avenues that people have experience in that they can use those skills, whether it's sales, marketing, you know, into real estate, and it makes everything easier
Mhm.
because you're complementing what you already know with something new. And so yeah, I think it's just you know, makes so much sense, right? You know, the interior design background
Mhm.
just makes it so much easier to do. We'll do any questions at the end if that's cool with you, Bernie. Um getting started in Airbnb though is not easy. Do you remember kind of your most challenging times or challenging guests or something that would be very memorable and worth sharing?
Yeah, so we had a moment where Airbnb guests tend to, the minute they show up at your property, all common sense has already left the building in their minds. And we had one lady who consistently kept lighting candles on her bed under a blanket because she was cold. Okay. Yeah, that was a challenge. We've had a lot of zany, crazy, challenging folks, which is fine. Um, and we've had a lot of amazing people come through, which is also fine. Uh, every day though brings a fresh like pile of new challenges because you're dealing with all these different personalities and all these different expectations. And when you're an Airbnb host, it's your fault that it's raining. It's your fault that the concert at Wrigley got canceled. Um, I've had so many people say my child has died. Can I have a refund? No, you can't. Sorry.
Wow. So
Yeah.
kind of what I was touching on earlier, you know, growing, scaling, you started out with one big building because
Yeah.
you wanted to party.
Mhm.
How did that circumvent you into getting more properties?
So I closed the whole party situation down 921 Cornelia right like 3 months before the pandemic and moved into a beautiful old Art Deco co-op building on Marine Drive. And I was like, I'm done with all of that. Which was great. And then right after the pandemic, I started getting sort of the itchy fingers, and I'm like, I got to get back into this. I miss doing it. Um, and I decided that I needed to actually approach it more professionally. It wasn't going to be a party house. It was going to be like an actual like business operation, which doesn't come natural to me at all. But we formatted it into something completely different. And quickly put something in that was scalable up.
And so getting new units now is not like it used to be, you know, pre-pandemic when
Right.
Airbnb came out.
Right.
What's your strategy on getting them? I think the important thing to notice, like the regulations have just gotten tighter and tighter and tighter
Yeah.
on Airbnb. I know, you know, if you have even 1 to 4 units now, like it has to be your personal residence.
Yeah. Do you want me to touch
Yeah,
on that?
yeah. If you want to go through all the regulations, that'd be super helpful, I think.
So when Airbnb started in Chicago, it was the wild, wild west. There was no regulation because it wasn't a problem, right? And the city ignores things until it becomes a big problem. And then the Hyatt company, which was very kind of them, stepped up to the plate and offered to write the Airbnb legislation policies for the city of Chicago. Awesome. Okay. Put a lot of strangleholds on things, and I was actually kind of shocked that the city alderman said no, that doesn't work, and listened to feedback from hosts. So now basically, and Sean, who is more technically adept at all of this than me, basically if you have under 5 units in your building, it is very hard to legally run an Airbnb. You have to basically claim it as your primary residence. And that's not just claiming it's my primary residence, that's actually showing an ID from the state of Illinois that says that address, showing a bank statement from the state of Illinois that shows that address, and signing a paper that says if you are claiming this fraudulently, it's a $5,000 a day fine. And up to last year or the year before, there was I think a team of 3 regulating the Airbnb market in Chicago at the city level. They have now taken that to a team of 12, because I think they realized that the fraud was going rampant. I would say most of the Airbnb listings in smaller buildings are being run fraudulently, because these are not primary homes. What you have to, Sean, is it 250 days or something? You also have to claim that you'll stay there a year. There's a day. Like they have put it, they have stomped down on the ability for normal people with a 2-flat to rent out the basement on Airbnb, which is really unfortunate. And I think that really was the hotel lobby getting involved and saying, let's really make this hard for the average person to do. Let's make it more of a corporate thing, because we might want to do this someday as well. The other thing that's weird about Airbnb now, it used to not be taxed. Now we pay the same taxes go to the city as if you were staying at a Hilton or something, the hospitality taxes, but there's an additional 6% fee, because 3% is in theory sort of targeted to alleviate homelessness in Chicago, and 3% is targeted to domestic violence prevention. A FOIA request showed that none of those monies were actually going to offset those programs. Of course, God bless the city. But it does make our taxes are insane, like comparatively to staying at a hotel. It really has stomped down on that market as well.
Yeah, the regulations have definitely changed. I was just gonna reiterate what the primary residence too in a 2 to 4 unit building. That doesn't mean if you live in the unit upstairs, you can rent out the unit downstairs.
Right.
It literally has to be the unit that you live in now. And so for me, I lived upstairs and had an Airbnb in my first floor for a long time, and that was okay. And I submitted my bank statements last year, no problem. This year, I just got my renewal notice, and now they want the state ID and the homeowner's exemptions. So either I have to claim homeowner exemption on it or change my state ID to keep it going. And I'm not sure I'm willing to risk a $5,000 a day fine to keep it going, because it's just not, it's not going to make any sense. So scaling up your business.
So wait, there's
Okay,
one
go
more.
ahead.
There's one more component to that. So if you have a over 5 unit building,
Oh yeah, yeah.
you can have 25% of the building up to, is it 6 or 5? 6 units in total. So 25 or 6. We don't know which way they round those percentages. It depends on who you get at the BACP, and if their calculator works. Because we've had things denied and we've had things approved when we were at that threshold. Because it's the city of Chicago regulating an online platform, you have to get pieces of paper in the mail, which are your registration. This is 125 per platform a year per unit, to be able to legally do it. And then if you have more than your primary residence, you have to get a shared housing unit operator license, which also comes in the mail. It's $250 a year. And if you let any of this expire, it's really bad. We had that happen with one unit, just in error, and it was almost a giant fine. So they really have they're stomping all over it all.
Yeah, and I think yeah. And for a while, you didn't even have to have your license, right? I think it was
Yeah.
like 2 or 3 years ago that they started to require you to have a license. So, so yeah, I guess my next question is just around scaling and growing systems and processes. Someone's getting started, they really want to dive into this, they want to make this a business. Like, where is the first place they should start to systematize their business, and what are kind of like the next steps to really kind of make it a business more than a hobby?
So the thing everybody needs to understand is that Airbnb has no relation to what you might be used to with a monthly or a long-term rental. Completely different in every way, shape, or form. If you have an Airbnb unit, you or your manager or whoever is running it for you, you're expected to be on call 24/7. I'm drunk, I locked myself out, it's now your problem. You're expected to clean units to a standard that is unlike anything that you anticipate. Like in your own home, if you come home after the cleaning lady's there and there's like a hair in the shower, okay, it's my hair. God knows I lose enough of them every day. In an Airbnb, if there's a short and curly somewhere anywhere in that unit, you're getting a photo sent to you by an irate lady from Iowa. So your cleaning has to be, you know, at hotel level cleaning, which again, you can't call this in. I brought, sorry, I'm
Yeah.
stepping off camera.
No, you're good.
I brought an example. This is our system. This is the laundry required. This is the laundry required for one studio flip. One bed equates to 14 pounds of laundry. Somebody's got to do that. Somebody's got to wash it. Somebody's got to inspect it. Because again, if there's a hair on that sheet, the world has ended. And you've got to figure out how to transport it. You've got to figure out all the logistics of getting that bed made. Which I don't think a lot of people, when you're like, oh, look at the cash flow, look at how much I can make. I don't think you realize the physicality of the business of Airbnb. It's a whole crazy thing. We also do these things called amenity kits, which are awesome and work really well for us. But like every unit, you find this in the kitchen. But the logistics of doing this is insanity. If you think about it, somebody's got to stock it, clean it, check it, pull the hot sauce out of it that somebody else has left, pull the used condom wrapper that somebody thought was funny out of it, and like go through it. So that's like a 5-minute a flip project. We do the same with like tampons and earplugs because, well, obviously that's a nice thing to have when you need it. And oatmeal, and it's a lot of hand holding, it's a lot of physical everything. It's really awesome. But when you're thinking about starting an Airbnb, you got to think about all of these things. It's not going on wayfair.com, buying some cheap furniture, you know, going as cheap as you can with everything and then collecting cash. It's a constant battle to get every dollar out of your unit. Flip side of that is very rewarding financially if you're running it correctly. But the hosts that are successful are the ones that are involved every day. The units that are not successful and get poor reviews and get pulled off the platform or drop in the search results and never get booked are the absentee owners that just phone it in. Does that answer your question mostly?
I want to dive into just like any softwares you're using, you know, how do you set up your cleaners, who's handling the communication, that type of stuff.
Okay.
Tactical.
So I'm the gentle overseer of the whole thing because I'm neurotic. And I set the units up and I generally just cause chaos. I have a management team of 2 fellows, one of which is here today, who are dealing with the whole back end of the operation. Is it Guesty that you guys use as your aggregate?
Yeah.
So they're using Guesty, which is an aggregate platform that pulls all of the listings into one management software. I can't speak intelligently about that because I have an AOL account. But like that platform allows them to schedule the cleaning. We have a cleaning staff consisting of about 8 or 10 people, and we have a full-time laundry lady and our own commercial laundry room. Because again, we're running this at a whole different level, and we're running it at a really high level of perfection. they have people dedicated 24 hours a day to being on call. So like, I need directions to get pizza at 2 a.m. That's a message that we get a lot. There's somebody who will auto send a message out and whatever, or I'm drunk, I'm locked out. Somebody will actually be dispatched all day long to like sort whatever problems out. And the thing is, like, in the world of Airbnb, the guest is never at fault. Like they're never at fault. Like I'm too stupid to like basically live, but now you're, I'm calling you for all my problems. Okay. How do I turn the fan on? I can't figure it out. Well, did you try the light switch? No, but can you come over and show me? It's a thing. It's a real thing. And it's a customer service business that you're in. If you have 1 or 2 units, it's really easy because you get to know Phyllis, who, oh, she's having some problems. We'll keep an eye on her. But like for us, we've scaled it up to the point, like we never know who's walking through the door. And you have people who are 22 and super tech forward and can use the apps, can use the check-in instructions, can do everything. Cool, got it. We have people who are 82 who want us to fax over instructions on how to get in. That's a relatively new thing. That people expect Airbnb to be just like a hotel when you're an older person, and it's just not.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah, Guesty, super helpful. That's what I've used for a long time. So I also use Price Slabs. I don't know if you guys use Price Slabs to regulate your pricing. And then, I guess like for me, I've set up still, I'm sure you guys have just a lot of automation still with like check-in docs. I don't know if you're on a lockbox, digital codes, very clear instructions. Here's where you get the lockbox. Here's where you park. We also have, like a welcome book that shows people where the amenities are, where to go. And that kind of brings me into my next question. Like, what are some other things that you guys are doing outside the box that are really keeping you guys at the top level? I mean, obviously you got these awesome amenity boxes with tampons. I'm surprised you don't have condoms in there, to be honest.
Well, we might. It depends. We have Motrum, which makes everybody happy. Our number one thing that we actually push forward is amazing locations. All of my units in the city of Chicago are within probably 20-minute walk to Wrigley.
Yeah,
I would say that's the most. My units in Michigan are in a resort town known for expensive weddings. Like, we have properties where people want to be. If you are in a less desirable area, it's going to get a completely different group of people staying with you. It's not a bad thing, it's just a thing. We have all of these auto messages that Sean has beautifully written, and they all say this is an auto message because sometimes they contradict what has already been discussed or what people want.
That's a good idea.
But I'm the creep who actually sits and writes long and detailed notes to people. A lot of them are cut and paste because I don't have really time, but like, oh, hey, you're coming to Wrigley. Did you know they do behind the scenes tours? They're so cool. You do. And people actually think that I care. I do care, but I don't care that much. But I care enough to actually write actual messages to everyone so they have a personal voice. So if they have a personal problem, they're complaining about my house. They're not complaining about this weird corporate faceless entity. And that's really successful for us. And then again, like we've figured out ways to cut back and also ways to excel. So like, if you stay in one of my units, we learned quickly that it doesn't matter if there's 1 bath towel or 14 bath towels, it will never be enough. It just won't. And if there's 14 towels, they will all get used. And if there's 1 towel, they will all get used. So we do 2 towels in every bed. But there's a sign that says, if you want more, just let us know and we'll bring them over. And we have lovely little door hang bags that we drop things off. And we figured out quickly, like operationally, that worked for us because we aren't wanting to haul all of these towels to laundry and deal with that. But it also works for the guests. Like if a woman needs 3 towels, okay, got it, cool. We'll have them there in an hour or 2. We've been talking recently about like what are the pinch points that our guests experience.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things we used to do was, hosts have lots of checkout instructions now, like everything from you know, turn off the lights and start the dishwasher to hoover the house and wash my car on departure. Like it's crazy what hosts are asking them to do. That's not our jam at all. And our checkout instruction is please check for everything you might have left behind and throw your keys in this tray. And you know, goodbye. We'll be along shortly. We figured out at one point that like we were asking guests to put keys back in a lockbox. And their last memory of that apartment was trying to figure out how to relock a realtor lockbox, which a lot of people don't know how to do. And it's really frustrating. But like throw the keys in the red tray makes everyone happy. They're like, okay, cool. I can do that. I didn't have to do anything.
Yeah, makes
Um,
sense.
and then they walk out like on a high note, which is great. I don't want their last note to be like figuring out the lockbox, finding the dumpster, dealing with any of these weird things that a lot of hosts think that they can ask because it's not a big deal to take out the trash and start the dishwasher. But for me, that's not the experience I want people to have. As
That's
they leave.
absolutely genius. Yeah, I'm that guy who's asking him to do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But yeah, that stuff is amazing. Yeah, there's a reason you're actually killing it. I said one, two last questions. One was for your units. So are they in buildings that are 5+, and you own those buildings, or are you finding landlords, housing providers that have a 10-unit building and then kind of arbitraging that building? That's very strategic thing of like, how does someone get started? Like that to me is the
Yeah.
number one question, is like, how do I do this legally in the framework that Chicago has?
So we are in courtyard buildings mostly. We have a weird situation going on. It's not exactly arbitrage. Arbitrage, for everyone who knows it, I rent this apartment for $1,000. I re-rent it on Airbnb for $5,000 a month, and I make 4,000 profit, right? We actually partner with building owners, and we say for every $10,000 of revenue, we're just going to split it down the middle. Here's our responsibilities. Here's your responsibilities. You're going to make an extra 20% on top of what you would make on average from a traditional rental. We're going to handle the rest. It cuts my profit margin quite a bit, but it also has allowed us to grow so exponentially. And it also makes all of our landlord partners, like, they're calling us every day, like, do you want another unit here? Does this one work? Does that one work? And we have Sean, who is a financial whiz kid, like, he can crunch the numbers and be like, no, that unit won't make sense because you'll make more money renting it on the market than you would Airbnb in it. But this unit does make sense because of whatever. Our top performing, you won't ask this, but I'll share it. Our top performing unit, it's in that packet, it's the green one, is a 406 square foot studio on the ground floor at Addison and Southport, right by that beeping, like, buses lowering bus stop. Honking traffic, like literally there's a window at eye level where people can watch you as you shower as they walk down Addison. It's crazy. It's the worst apartment I can imagine living in. And it has a closet that's 8 inches deep and like 14 feet wide, right? Like, horrible. And that thing makes more money than I could imagine. It's the most popular unit I have. And it's just people like coming to Wrigley and staying literally right at Wrigley. And they think it's cool that people are urinating against the windows. Like, which it would be awful to live there full time, but like as a Chicago visitor, it's like, oh, that was cool.
They could be the people that are urinating
Yeah.
on their own place too.
Yeah, and people are doing pull-ups on the exposed sewage pipe. I'm like, okay, cool. You do you, whatever. But it looks really cool. And the other thing that you didn't ask that I'll share, we approach our units really differently. Our units are really fun, they're personal. A lot of people, when they put together Airbnb units, they buy all mid-tone gray crap from wayfair.com, which isn't really cool. And they throw it. Am I describing your unit?
No, mine's a little cool.
little better.
Not that cool, but a
You
little
know,
cool.
they'll be like, I have a Grateful Dead poster that I'll hang on this wall. Cool. Our units are top to bottom awesome. and each unit has almost like a artist vision statement attached to it. Each unit has its own art collection. Each unit has its own like weirdly specific things. We get calls like constantly like, it was great. Why was there a jar of baby arms in the hallway? You know, like each one has all of these things, and people actually resonate beautifully with that. Each unit has a book collection, which people are like, cool. One unit has a communist theme. A lot of people don't realize that that's a picture of Lenin, which I think is hysterical. But if you can take your unit and you can make it specific to you somehow, or whoever you want to pretend is you, like that will actually resonate with guests more than anything else that you can do. People want to stay on Airbnb with people that they know. They don't want to have any mystery hairs in the mix, but they want it to not feel like the Hyatt, which is where creative people have a great ability to be successful on the platform.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that's really set your Airbnbs and mine apart. They're really thought through, uniquely different. People are paying more for the experience than just a place to stay. And there's people who are just paying just for a place to stay too, right? That's what I've noticed about Airbnb. It's either you're at the top or you're at the bottom. There's not much of a middle anymore. Yeah. And so, yeah, I've learned a ton. And, I think at this point I have to shut my Airbnb down because it's just not going to keep functioning anymore, and it's not going to be legal. But so I know there's a ton of questions. I know he dropped so many nuggets. I know Bernie immediately had a question, so I'm going to go straight to you and yeah, ask away.
It's great. I understand everything that you're saying. I have one on the south side, and it's more personal. And so I like the idea about the keys and the tray. 3 questions. How does the application process work? How does keys work for each person that come in? And also, I think everybody will have the same question. One of the sheets says something about porn. Could you explain that?
Oh, yeah. So
Was there a sheet in there that wasn't supposed to be?
let's so our biggest stumbling block is keys, because we're in old buildings with old funky doors and whatever. We have not figured out, some of our units have outward facing doors, and that's awesome, right? We have not figured out a consistent way to do any sort of mechanized automatic locks and still be able to have a building common key in the mix. And it's really expensive. We looked into it. It's really expensive to retrofit those like 2 3/4 inch Chicago front doors to have anything other than the routed in mortise locks that they have. So every building has a lockbox on it. Somebody gets a code before check-in, and our lockboxes it's actually a really complex process to get a key from a red tray into the hands of a cleaner and back into a correct lockbox when there's like 14 options. And ready for the next guest. Like that has been one of our biggest stumbling points, but we figured out a process. Each lockbox has a number and a color and everything is good. And then we have a link to a video of how to open a lockbox for somebody who might not have ever encountered one, which is a lot of people. Like they're becoming common now, but used to not be the case. Application process for Chicago, is that your that's pretty straightforward. It's the BACP website. You have to make an account, you go in and you put in your address, and you have to be really careful and specific with the way you put in your address, because they cross-check that with the PIN database, and they also
Okay. I mean, for a guest, how does a guest apply for an apartment?
Oh,
Because I personally do a background check for all my guests that come in to make sure that they're sane.
oh, we don't do that. We don't.
No, yeah.
We used to do that for my properties in Michigan, which are a lot fancier and a lot more on the line. And we figured out that you have to make the barrier to entry the lowest that you can for a guest. So I know a lot of hosts, especially in bigger houses that are prone to parties or other circumstances, have guests like go through a background check or actually buy a separate insurance policy or do all of these things. Logistically, we just figured that it's better to have one party a year and deal with the fallout of that than to go through the hoops. If you are a single unit operator, I think you should really look into everybody who comes into your home. If honestly, but yeah, not when you scale.
If I could
Unfortunately.
add to that too, really quick, you can deter parties by playing with your nightly minimums and with your
Hmm.
rates. And also with an Airbnb, even though we don't do like extra background checks or waivers or anything to fill out, there are settings that you can check where you won't allow anyone to instant book unless they have a previous like positive review. And you can also require them to have like a profile photo, which people fake anyway, but that's like a couple extra layers, including the nightly minimums that
Mhm.
really help to, where we're basically in a place where we don't deal with problem guests. Just that.
And we only have maybe two or three a year probably that are problems.
Yeah.
We have a lot of cannabis issues. And I don't like signs in units. I don't at all. I don't like encountering that, but we finally put a sign like, hey, no smoking actually means no smoking of anything. The neighbor will take a bucket of water and dump on you if you smoke outside. And that has worked. There is no neighbor and there is no bucket of water, but like just saying there's a crazy neighbor who will do that and that will happen has deterred and eliminated the pot smoking. Yeah, cool. Anyway, what was the porn sets. So I don't know if you guys saw it. The most recent unit, this is the 2-bed on Wayne. The most recent unit, I specifically wanted it to be something that Instagram influencers would book. I wanted to try this out. And it's really cool. Like we actually had the painter spray paint everything in a couple rooms the same color, and it's extremely thoughtful to look good on camera. And one of the venues that we're now exploring is a thing called Peer Space, which is where you can rent, all kinds of things for whatever, including porn sets. We're going to list that unit on Peer Space to see if we can have it grabbed for like boudoir photo shoots and other sorts of fun things that need an interesting background to it. I put extra bolts in the bed, so we're ready. You bring it on.
And Peer Space is nice too, because it's not even a daily rental, right? It could be
It's
as
an
low as
hourly
like
rental.
hourly rental.
Yeah, so we can do a 4-hour block, which is kind of like if I could do that in the middle of the day, maybe not a adult shoot because that would probably take cleaning, but like the more you can get different revenue streams coming in, the better off you'll be. Especially in January and February when nobody's coming to Chicago at all.
One thing that's unclear for me is you mentioned that the regulations require that everything that you have on Airbnb is your primary residence. How do you then have multiple units, multiple properties on Airbnb? Are you living in one year? Like, do you do it for 1 year? You like check the box and then move on, or like how does that work out?
All of mine are in bigger buildings, which have a bigger building has, if it's over 5 units, you can have 25% of the building up to 6. on
Airbnbs in the
Airbnb.
building. Yeah.
Yeah. If it's a smaller building, you have to attest that you live there.
Anything under 4 now. Because it used to be tons of people who had their 2 to 4 unit were renting out their units. And then there's just like Airbnbs everywhere,
Mhm.
And so I understand the regulation to make it a little trickier. But I don't necessarily agree that it basically made it impossible for anyone
Mhm.
with 4
For a normal
units.
person
Yeah.
to do it. Yes.
And to kind of piggyback on this question, so I have a 3-unit building, right? And I live in 1 unit. And
I met you, right? Did you come to a group at my office at one point with Dietrich Corker? Oh, do you really? Oh, well, anyway, sorry.
So if I'm clear, I can't rent the the unit upstairs or downstairs, right? You can't.
You can if you claim it as your primary home, and I would really recommend that you weigh that carefully.
Right, so that, okay, so then I guess my primary question is, when I provide verification of my address, right? After my ID has to say
Mhm.
unit 2,
Mm-hmm,
and on Airbnb, it would have to say unit 2 as well.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
therefore, I can't rent my whole space, I have to be renting a room or a couple of rooms.
Mhm.
You,
You can, from my understanding, again, this just depends on who at BACP is looking at the paper that day, because everyone has their own approach to things. If you are doing a shared room, you have a lot lower of a barrier to entry. Most people on Airbnb do not want a shared room now.
right,
And by shared room, I'm not saying like we're in beds next to each other. I'm saying like, here's your guest room with a lock on the door. I'm in this room with a lock on my door. I,
Like in-law basement, that's still technically the same unit, that's fine.
yeah, in theory, you could list and claim that that is a shared unit. And the barrier to that is that most people aren't looking for that now on the
Yeah.
Airbnb platform, and your revenue rates are a lot lower.
mm-hmm.
so with Airbnb, on Airbnb, would it just be the address or literally the unit also?
Well, people don't see any, just to clarify, people don't see the address or the unit number until after they book. Just, it's not on the platform in general. But in the computer, when you set up your listing, you will have like 123 Main Street Unit 2, which links up directly to to this thing, which says the exact same address. And this piece of paper gets mailed to that same address too, which is weird, whatever. So it all links through, and then that registration number links through. I don't believe that there is any computerized checking at this point of the 16-digit registration number on the Airbnb platform.
Maybe I can share an experience. So I've had to deal with some of this. My license expired and Airbnb froze my listing. And it was a nightmare to try to reactivate. So one tip I want to emphasize is make sure this expires. Put a calendar reminder every year for the next 5-10 years, however long you think it will. I had the same issue that you're asking. My experience, again, might be different. I agree that depends when you talk to BACP. I asked them many questions, the same, and I sometimes get different answers. Yes, you have to have the same unit number listed on Airbnb as you do on that piece of paper. That registration number they give you is regular, like it's letter for letter. That's where I had the issue. Airbnb wouldn't unfreeze my listing until they received a new registration number, even though all I wanted was to renew the existing one. So it is like very much the letter, the registration number that you get there. Again, the unit number has to match, but I asked BACP about this. In my case, I have a private residence. We live in one unit, we rent it the second, and that's perfectly fine. That's legitimate. Even though on the registration, unit numbers have to match. It doesn't make sense. But that's how we've been able to do it, and I've renewed now a number of years without any issue, except for the expiry. So it's not perfectly clean, I think, the way it's set up. Yeah, that's been my experience.
If it's not too personal, were you living in the other unit? Have you registered in the rental unit? Yep. Okay. Yep.
That's why it worked, yeah. Yeah, because now they require the state ID, like this is just new on this renewal
Mhm.
for me. The state ID has to say the unit number, or you have to be claiming it on your homeowner exemption.
And I'm out in New Park, so I don't know if the regulations are different. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Oh, it's totally different.
Yeah,
Completely ignore everything that we just
it
said.
may not even be regulated at that point, Park,
They
so,
do require a certificate, but that's probably not.
yeah, not even close.
I will also say this, we ran into this. I spent, $750,000 on a property in Michigan with the intent of short-term renting it out. maybe 30-40% into the reno process, which was also really expensive, this group of 4 80-year-old men who are the town village masters decided that Airbnb was no longer legal in that town and kneecapped it. And they did not understand at all the money that was on the line for all of, like, they just didn't know. They literally thought that people were making like $4,000 or $5,000 a year renting these houses, and did not believe anyone that was like, no, take that times 20. This is what you're regulating. So like the laws that are ever changing, especially if you're buying with the intention of short-term renting anywhere, that is the risk. Like, people hate Airbnb. People see it as like a really big problem. Everyone can blame every societal ill on Airbnb. They won't talk about REITs or anything else. They'll only talk about Airbnb. But that becomes a big risk. Like, if you're predicating a mortgage payment on cash flow, and a group of old people that don't understand what they're regulating regulate you out, you're sunk.
Yeah, I think that's what, like, one of the best tips too is like, if you are buying with that intent, like, those numbers need to work
Mhm.
without Airbnb,
Mhm.
right? Because otherwise you just plummet into the ground and you're going upside down pretty quick.
And I have been shocked, honestly shocked. I work part-time with Haven Real Estate Staging, doing their special projects. The amount of realtors who have come to me like, hey, I've been looking for a property with my client for an Airbnb. We're going to buy this on whatever.
So many.
And I'm always like, do you know what the laws are? It's not condo association approval.
Yeah.
It's a whole nother level. Like, your client needs to be really well educated. There's a great guy, what's his name, George Sato, something like that, who actually is an attorney in Chicago specializing in short-term rentals. Like, I always refer, like, hey, spend an hour with him, buy his time, get up to speed before you lead your client down a really bad path. It's a thing. It's a real thing.
Yeah, maybe we can get his info too
Yeah.
to share.
I had a question. Have you guys looked at all at direct listings? So setting up kind of your own sites, so you avoid the whole fees that.
So, direct listings in the city of Chicago are forbidden unless you pay a $10,500 a year registration fee.
Wow.
And if you usurp that, and there's a lot of these out there, if you usurp that, it's a $5,000 per instance fine. The only platforms that are allowed are Airbnb, VRBO, HomeAway, and Expedia. Like, Booking.com doesn't have they're not legal in Chicago. You have to be really careful with that. Our workaround, we're in the middle of like putting all of these, stayinwrigleyville.com will be me. We're in the middle of putting together an aggregate site that's just actually going to be linked to the VRBO ads, because the VRBO fees are a little bit less than Airbnb, to just lead people that way. And once you have a relationship with someone, I mean, repeat guests, that it's up to your own discretion how you run your business in that manner.
One last question. Have you looked into medium-term rentals? So beyond 31, 32 days, whatever it is?
Sean has actually had success in that. That is not my jam, because I don't like people for that long. That's when my perception of that is things get used really hard in medium-term rentals. So you're constantly on the hook to refurbish.
Yeah, well, we have a
properties.
midterm rental down in south of the South Loop, and it's been
Those
pretty
are
good
good.
for us. I mean, location again is probably like the biggest key, you know, like we're not in Wrigleyville, we're close to hospitals, things of that nature, where you got traveling nurses and stuff like that.
It's like nurses or students, professors that are there for 3-4 months that may care more about the place than somebody there for 2 nights to watch a Cubs game and party in Wrigleyville. It's like something I've looked into, but yeah, not sure.
Yeah, that's kind of what we found. It's better than long term, less work than short term, but there's still that, you know, these gaps of vacancies and things like that. So it's like, is the return, you know, really outweighing the long term rental? Like, it's pretty close, if not maybe a little above. So
You had
Yeah,
Andrew.
if we're setting this up, you would recommend Wrigleyville as a good location or your other location?
No, Wrigleyville's done.
I can't.
So you don't want anything to do with Wrigleyville. Unless you want to run a real crappy one with bed bugs, you can come on over.
Good. Someone was saying play off your strengths, so like
Wait, hold on one second, Andrew. The real answer to that question, transit hubs are really important. If you can say, I'm here, it's a 4-minute walk to a train line, 22 minutes to downtown. That's the solution. People are actively searching for Wrigleyville or DePaul or some of these other named areas. We have discovered, which is weird, like Wrigleyville's super seasonal. I mean, people are paying some moron paid what, $500 a night for a studio during one of the concerts, like the Lady Gaga, what the hell? But then it's dead all winter long, right? Like it's this crazy up and down. Other areas don't have that problem at all. Like Lincoln Square, steady performer across the way. So each area is going to have its own pluses and minuses, but transit is going to be the biggest question. Nobody wants to, even if they're driving to Chicago, nobody actually wants to drive to the Loop.
Yeah, that's the only reason ours has been around as long as it has for the lower quality. Is, you know, we're off the blue line, so anything off the blue line walking distance is going to be around for a little bit.
And what was your second? Sorry.
So someone was saying play off your strengths when you're in real estate. So like I can do like customer support and hospitality. I hate turnovers. Would you recommend getting a management service for both the turnovers and just like the day-to-day issues, or just for the turnovers?
So
if I'm gonna get it.
So I had grown to a point, and I had a lovely Italian lady who I loved doing the turnovers for me, but it got to the point where like it was making me insane. And if she missed a turn, well, that was really bad. But then it was also me scrubbing toilets at 2 a.m. My management company, which is the guy over there, what's interesting about them is that they say over and over, we wanted to start an Airbnb management company, but we figured out quickly that we had to have a cleaning company first before we could manage Airbnbs, because the cleaning is the stranglehold right there for every unit. It is absolutely imperative that you outsource your cleaning. It's also absolutely imperative that you are checking that property religiously.
Yeah, yourself, you know, the
Yourself.
cleaners do not do a good enough job checking. Yeah, so I walk mine. The other thing too with cleaners, there's a cool website called Turno that popped up specifically for Airbnb cleaners. I don't know where you guys find your cleaners. Mine are amazing, but yeah, that's a good website, Turno.
And I will also say that a lot of it's a double-edged sword, because what's our lowest cleaning fee is it 125 now?
That's
Our lowest cleaning fee is 135, which is a chunk of money, right? But it's also a livable wage, and it's 4 hours of somebody's life and whatever. But like Becky from Iowa is saying, I paid $135 to clean this place and I found a hair. And that she equates that to like, I want a refund of this because there was a hair. Like the more you charge for cleaning, the higher the expectations are. The less you charge for cleaning, the more of a pain in the butt it is for you. And the lower your search results will be, because people will rank you low for cleaning. It's a weird, like, you don't know how to play it.
Yeah, we have a little bit higher cleaning fee, I think 199, and then we actually make a little delta on it. So, but again,
I do recommend never making money on your cleaning fee. A lot of people do that. It's cool. That's not where I make my money. Because I get too many complaints when it gets too high.
Yeah. Well, there's one other thing I gotta fix. No, but yeah, I mean, the thing is when it's close to transit and you have a decent enough unit, like people, and I live there, right? So I'm checking a lot myself. So I have more work that I want to do.
Yeah.
David's gonna be here for a little bit, so I want to make sure for the people who want to hop off can hop off. I just want to double check, you know, you give us a ton of tips and nuggets. What's the best way for anyone to get a hold of you that might want to get a better understanding or dive deeper into Airbnb and short-term rentals?
It's praedprojects.com, Praed projects with an S.com is my design website, and it's got a link to me on there. But yeah, don't go into it half-hearted. That's the summation.
Yeah, beautiful. And yeah, my name is Jonathan Klum again. We're Quality Builders Inc. on all the platforms. So yeah, if you guys can follow us, like us, share the event with your friends to get some more people. I always just remind everyone at the end, you know, the easiest thing to do to continue to grow is get comfortable being uncomfortable. So make sure you find some people in the room you haven't talked to, and maybe they might have the solution to figure out your next step of finding gap funding. So appreciate everyone for coming. David, thank you very much.
Thanks.
And that's it.